Welcome to the Cat Conversation, a podcast helping cat people understand their cats better. I'm KJ, your kitty correspondent. If you enjoy the show, please make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe. Hello, and welcome to the Cat Conversation. This is a show helping you have a better understanding about your cats and a better relationship with them. I am KJ, your kitty correspondent, and today we're going to be talking about stress. Stress is such a big factor in your cat's life. And you've probably heard me say, if you watch Pet Pals TV or you're a part of the KJ's Cat Club on Facebook, a safe cat is a happy cat. And there are two tiers to that when we talk about a cat feeling safe. One, we want them feeling safe in their body. We want them feeling good, medically speaking. And two, we want them feeling safe in their surroundings, in your environment. And there may be things that you don't realize are stressing your cat, which is why I brought in a very special guest today. Dr. Natalie Olden-Stahl has been my guru for many years with my cats. She is an integrative veterinarian who's been practicing for over a decade. She is acupuncture certified. She is nutrition certified. She began in a rural practice and then went into emergency medicine, which then led to an interest in integrative medicine, where she now practices a variety of modalities. One of her primary goals is to help educate her clients and the veterinary community on integrative medicine to enrich the lives of pets and reduce stress on those working in the veterinary medicine. Welcome to the show, Dr. Olden-Stahl.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate, this. I appreciate everything that you have done for our house of cats here, and have wanted to, for a very long time, have this conversation where we can help more people, because, I do have a lot of cat followers. I have a lot of dog people too. And I think a lot of what we're going to be talking about today applies to both. But what I love about being able to have the conversation about cats, and, I would pose this first question to you. I feel like in the amount of time since I went from being radio personality / veterinary assistant, a lot of people don't know, while I was on the radio, I was also working at a cat clinic for over a decade. I feel like that there has been an effort and a movement to bring the conversation along about how we help cats in the unique way that they need it. Do you feel like that is happening as well?
I do. I think that there's a lot more understanding about cats in general. I mean, I think even if you kind of watch on TV when they show cat ads, I think that has changed a lot just in the past 5 to 10 years as well. And I think when we think about cats, sometimes, especially if we're a first-time cat owner, maybe we're thinking that if we've had a dog before or if never had a cat before, we don't really have a kind of a feeling of cats. And the thing with cats is they're not fully domesticated, Carrie, as I'm sure you know. Dogs, we've spent about 14,000 years domesticating them, and we kind of brought them up out of the wolves. And cats they are not small dogs. They're obligate carnivores, and they have a lot of different interactions with us that forms that very special bond that we have with them. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that we do inadvertently that just stress them a lot. And sometimes that's one of the number one reason why cats are in shelters, is just due to stress. It's not due to an actual medical issue, it's due to stress. So I think if we're thinking about some of the more common ways that cats are stressed, honestly, just when we leave the home every day, that causes our cats a lot of stress. So I don't think we think about that. Sometimes I think we have kitties that are maybe a little bit more like a house plant, right? That we can go with for the weekend, we can leave out some dry food. But for the kitties, that could be a huge change for them. And so I think if we're thinking about ways to enrich their environment and how when we leave or what we leave for them, and also if their overall health is pretty good, and they're not giving us some of those subtle cues that maybe we should be watching for, I think we can be a lot more successful with that bond that we're forming with them.
And when you say that, it's like, okay, one of the biggest thing that's stressing your cat is that you go to work. Well, I have to go to work, right?
You got to go to work, you know? Yeah.
So, and And I talk often about, and I started off in my book talking about poor Reggie. I call him my practice cat. Yeah, it was the cat that I had. Found him in, 8th grade. He was the last remaining kitten from a litter that clearly didn't have a good start to life. And I tricked my mom and dad by saying, mom told me I could have the cat. Dad told me I could have the cat. And then after all the vet stuff was taken care of, they went, "You did this? I did this." But, I took him with me, in my early days to, Omaha and Indianapolis. I had a stop in Detroit. And I would do that. I would leave it. I'd go back to Wisconsin, visit my family, and leave them for 4 days with a bunch of food out, one person that may stop by. And I, was like, that man was a trooper, right? That cat
That
taught
was
me
yeah,
so,
yeah.
like, and even in, I know that we are going to have many conversations, but, one of the big conversations that we're going to be having soon that you and I talked about is grief and loss and anticipatory grief, and, thinking about all the things I did to Reggie at the end of life that, like, let's do more tests and let's do more of this, that I would never do now because I have a better education of stress, of, what's the quality of life for the cat in terms of doing this. So, there's so much to unpack when it comes to stress in cats. But I do want to stress that the first thing that I always tell people, when they ask me, no matter what is going on, it's obviously it's a behavior, right? That's where we start. My cat's acting funny. I don't know why, is to go to the vet. So can you kind of talk about, how we understand that a change in behavior has many different levels that the cat can be communicating, and why it is important to start by seeing a vet?
Yeah. So I think if we are looking at a cat, like I said, not as a small dog, cats are not pack animals. And so their primary thing that they try to do is they want to protect themselves and their territory. So they don't often tell us when things are beginning to occur. And by the time we see those signs, hiding, not eating as well, maybe urinating or defecating outside of the box, which is one of the number one reasons why cats are in shelters. Maybe they're scratching in other places. Maybe they're trying to escape. Maybe we're having trouble finding them. Those behaviors indicate something that has probably been going on for more time than we realize. And so, one of the things about going to the vet regularly is that they have a baseline for your cat, right? They have baseline weight, and they have maybe baseline blood work and a urinalysis, something that can give you a good indicator of when they were okay, right? And when they were fine. One of the things as a cat owner that you guys have a lot of control over is the weight of your cat. And I always ask people to weigh their cats every month. When they get older, probably over age 10 or 12, I have you weigh them twice per month. Weight loss in cats, even if it's a quarter of a pound, oftentimes is an indicator of disease before the cat starts to vomit or hide or is not eating well. So I think being aware of some of those subtle cues like weight is a good thing that you guys can do. The other thing I think is when you're interacting with your cat, maybe you notice that they're overstimulated. They shake their tail at you, or their ears are not as pricked as they should be. Or when you pet them, they kind of shake their skin or they move away from you and then they kind of come back and they move away. And normally, this is a cat who would be so close to you and cuddling up with you. Those definitely can also be cues to indicate that something's not right and to take them into a veterinarian.
And I think we have a little bit of, it obviously we have a little bit more sympathy, if you will, for the fraidy cats of the world, the cats that are hiding and, standoffish, and we go, "Oh, that poor cat is scared." But the cat that's aggressive, understanding that that's also fear, right? I
Or
mean,
pain. Or
yeah,
pain.
it's fear or pain, but it's their way of communicating that something's wrong, and sort of having that understanding that you are literally their safe guardian. You are everything.
Mhm.
And so however they are communicating, whether it's hiding, whether it's "I'm not sleeping with you anymore, I'm sleeping on the floor." I hear that a lot from people. And that was
Absolutely.
And
Mhm.
that you taught me that, like, well, maybe it hurts to get on the bed. Maybe it's not they prefer to sleep on the floor now.
Mhm.
It's so subtle with cats, but we do hear so often going into the shelters, the cat's aggressive. And it's like, well, so understanding that's a communication tool for them and not a way, they're not all of a sudden they don't want to hurt you. Something's going on with them. So how do we figure out, we get to that point where we've done the medical stuff and again, it's something that comes up over and over. The vet said everything's fine. That's not necessarily where we stop, right? We have to advocate. If the blood work has come back okay and there aren't any signs that there is something physically wrong, then we are talking about maybe an environmental stress. How do you help the owner start to, investigate that and figure out how we help a cat that is actually having environmental stress?
Sure. Well, before we do that, I'm going to do my one plug about declawing. Okay. If we're talking about any type of chronic pain, I don't recommend to declaw at any time. And if you do adopt a kitty from the shelter that's already been declawed, just be aware that chronic pain is part of their life, whether or not you think you see them limping. So a lot of times that behavior, maybe that cat, like you said, is a little more aggressive, or it's more mouthy, or it is maybe it doesn't stick around as long and it seems that its attention span with you is shorter. That cat is waving its flag, and that cat will need some assistance, and we can help them for the rest of their lives. But please, please don't wait for something that is what might be called a larger event. Someone gets bit, or the cat is truly hiding, or it's not using the litter box. That cat has pain from the time that that procedure occurred. So,
And then
but
when we're talking, yeah, and then and I appreciate you saying that. I think so often, even you get into senior cats and arthritis, right? And they, have the conversation quick about, well, it's not a quick conversation, but the litter box communication. Cats don't want to go outside of their litter box, correct?
correct. They want to keep everything because that's a territory mark, right? So they want to keep their territory marking. Cats are actually pretty fastidious creatures, right? And they're also very routine oriented. And so they like to do what they do in those specific areas. They like to scratch in certain areas. They like to urinate and defecate in certain areas. And then they scent mark everywhere else. Those are a lot of their big ways to mark their territory. So if they're outside of the box, that is definitely a flag. So they are trying to tell you something. Or the box is not clean. I know our lives are busy, and especially, if during COVID we were working in the home and we were able to be there all the time, and now we have to go back into the office, the litter box, just make sure every day you scoop it. Just scoop it every day, dump and clean it once a week, because the litter box cleanliness alone, maybe it isn't a deeper health issue. Maybe it is just the box. And also, if possible, because obviously space is a concern, I understand everyone has different types of living spaces. But if you're able to get litter boxes plus one cat, so if you have two cats, ideally you should have three litter boxes if possible. That will also help with them keeping that inside of the box because they can have those in separate areas for their territory marking.
And I'm glad you said that, separate areas, because sometimes,
Separate area.
people put, right? So a cat views three litter boxes right next to each other as one big
One
litter box,
giant
right?
litter box. That's right. That's right. And it is. It's humongous. And we think it's great. But the cats at the same time may not agree. They may not agree. Yeah.
And that gets into, you've talked several times about brought up resources. That is, we want, especially with those multi-cat households, where people are like, oh, my cats don't just they don't, I can't get them to get along. They don't get along. It can be not enough litter boxes in places. And the reason that magic number is one more is because if every cat is guarding a litter box, that cat that needs to go still has one available they can get to without being afraid.
Correct.
Um,
That's right. That's right. A
it-
safe cat is a happy cat. That's right.
yes,
Yeah.
I got to make billboards for that, please. A
Yeah.
safe cat is a happy cat,
Yeah.
but that goes for food and water too, right?
Yes. Well, and I think the big thing too is cats, like I said, not small dogs. A dog, I mean, you could feed them out of any type of surface, and that dog, most likely, as long as they are food motivated, will eat out of that surface. cats, they have their whiskers, right? And their whiskers, I mean, if you've ever looked at your cat's whiskers, some days you just stare at them, right? And you just look at
Mhm.
those whiskers. They're so amazing. They're different width and length. Some cats' whiskers are like 4 times the size of their face. So there's actually something called a whisker map that's on their brain. So that each one of these little whiskers, they have a same literally imprinted map on that side of their brain. It's called a whisker map. And those whiskers, because they give them so much information, which is why blind cats, right? Or cats with one eye still can be extremely successful because these whiskers are a key part of that. If we're feeding them on a small surface, like a bowl, which is often what they sell for cats, with a small dead fish on the side of it, which is my favorite. And so if we feed them on a flat surface, they will be much more successful. And we actually get rid of something called whisker stress. Because if a cat is eating and its whiskers are constantly touching the side of the bowl when they are eating, we have cats who do one of two things. Either they stay at the bowl and they gulp all that food down and then they go and they vomit it back up, especially dry food. Or we have those little kids who run, they snatch a couple bites and they run away and then they come back and they eat little bits, little bits, little bits. And maybe we struggle to keep weight on that cat, or maybe we feel that we're not sure how much they're actually eating. That both of those are scenarios of whisker stress. So if we're able to feed them on a flat surface, a plate, a mat, I like a large Pyrex bowl for those messy cats that push it all around. They can put their whole face, all those whiskers, everything right in there. The same thing with the water bowl, Carrie, too, because if the water bowl is small, they may not drink as often. And if you have cats and dogs in the home, oftentimes I ask them where they see the cat drinking. Well, outside of your water class, of course. But then they'll drink the dog's bowl because the dog bowl is larger. So give your cats multiple areas of whisker stress free zones that are large and wide so that they can be successful with eating and drinking.
I always like to leave people with, here are some things you can do right now. So to go back to the person who's like, I don't know how to help my cat if I leave the house. What are those things that you can have in the house that are naturally calming resources to help your cat not be so stressed?
So I would say using some type of pheromone diffuser. For instance, Feel Away is a well-recognized brand of diffusers that has pheromones that can help cats. They also have a multi-cat one that can help with inner cat behavior. I think that is very key. I would say making sure that your food, water, and litter box situation, right, is the best that it can be for your space. Window seats, I think, would be a pretty easy one. Even if you don't have a large space, if you can clip, they make those ones that clip on to window seats that will support even a 15 to 20 pound cat. I think that's a really nice way to do that. And they do make some the sound therapy, Carrie, is a big thing. And I would definitely make sure that it's not a cat dog channel, right? But that it was maybe a cat appropriate channel. But there are sound channels. There's actually some veterinary produced ones as well for pets, including cats. There's also cat TV, right? I know some people will see that. Definitely make sure there's no cats on that cat TV if they don't look for new friends. Maybe just birds. Birds would be good, or just nature scenes, things like that. But those are things that you could leave on in your home for cats, especially if there's a single cat household, to try to make them. So if they can see out, they have an unstressed food and water source, their litter box is clean. And if we have a diffuser running and we've determined that one of those sound therapies is something that they like, those are things that I would say are not expensive. We didn't have to rearrange our house. And hopefully it's something that the cat, like I said, would give them a little bit more solace when we're not there with them.
I would love to, if you wouldn't mind sharing the links to the veterinary sound channels that you were talking
I will
about.
get those. I will get those to you. Yes, so you can post them for sure. For sure.
I have a specific one that I use, and I actually interviewed the gentleman. His name is Travis Schumacher, and he does the crystal sound bowls.
Mhm.
And he had an interesting story because he wasn't a cat person. He ended up with a cat, and then he started to realize that different frequencies would bring
Yes.
the cat in, and he could play them and see how far the cat would. And so his cat, big orange cat named Perseus, has become the star of his channel, and he didn't set out to be a cat sound bowl guy, but because this cat came into his life and taught him, like, this is helping me, that I don't like, this is great. He makes those. And so I often, when I leave the house, gonna do all the things that you said, and then I put on different TVs in the house. I'm like, okay, guys, Perseus is in charge, and I turn on the sound bowls, and the cat's laying there, and I'm like, all right, Perseus, you're in charge of the cats while we're gone. So I'm also a big fan. And like you said, it costs nothing to turn the TV on before you go and have those relaxing sounds. And we actually had them. It was thundering this morning. We have, thankfully, most of our cats don't worry about it, but we do have a couple that, get under the bed and think the world is ending. And I was like, sound baths on every TV in the house until this is over.
Yeah. And kind of like you said, I mean, you were there, right, when you tried these things initially. So definitely try, especially that sound therapy when you're home, right? Initially, to make sure that does not send your poor cat that's sitting on the back of the couch into the closet. Are individual creatures, right? Just like we are. And one cat, based on, especially if they were a rescue cat or their exposure to something, definitely test any of these things with the safety of your presence, right?
Absolutely.
Or send them into the great blue yonder here. So,
Thank you, Dr. Olden-Stahl. We will be having many more conversations. I know that we could talk forever. And so we're going to wrap it up with this first episode of the Cat Conversation. If you do have any questions, I encourage you, please join my Facebook group. I can't always get to your personal messages, and I have a really great group of people who, like me, have spent their lifetime just observing and learning from their cats, who are willing to jump in and say, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? So anytime that you have a question, or, just an inkling that something is off about your cats, as we talked about, they're so subtle that you really do have to be an observer of their behavior to catch things before they finally shout about it. Go to facebook.com/groups/KJ's Cat Club, or just search KJ's Cat Club and it'll come up, and we're more than happy to help guide you. And as always, get to the vet. With any animal that you have having a strange behavior, it is their communication that it is a cry for help, and you are the only person they have in the world who can help them feel safe. A safe cat is a happy cat. Until next time, this has been the Cat Conversation. Thanks for joining me for the Cat Conversation, powered by Storms and Melodies Calming Remedies. You can shop stormsandmelodies.com, where you can also get my book, Raised by Cats, Behind the Mic and the Meows, a memoir that will have you laughing and learning to love your cat even more. Subscribe so you can keep up with the Cat Conversation, and follow my YouTube channel for the positive vibes of pop culture, people to know, and pets. Go to youtube.com/KJ today.